Good day everyone, we are the presenter and we are going to talk about the 1973 constitutional authoritarianism. In 1965, Ferdinand Marcos was elected President of the Philippines. By 1967, Congress decided to have Constitutional Convention to revise the old 1935 Constitution. Then in 1969, Marcos won re-election. Nanalo si Marcos muli sa re-election ng 1969. Ngunit, siya ay nakusahan sa labis na paggastos sa kanyang kampanya at paggamit ng pondo ng gobyerno. On November 20, 1970, elections were held for the convention delegates and it officially started on June 1, 1971. At first, it was led by former President Carlos P. Garcia, but he died while the convention was ongoing, so former President Diosdado Macapagal replaced him. Before the convention ended, Marcos declared martial law using the communist insurgency as his reason. Ang delegado ng convention ay pinakulong, ang iba naman ay nagtago sa ibang bansa o umalis. As dictator, Marcos influenced and dictated parts of the constitution to stay in power. On November 29, 1972, the proposed constitution was approved. The new constitution planned a parliamentary-style government. Laws will be made by one House National Assembly, with members elected every 6 years. The president would only be a symbolic head of state, chosen from the assembly, and could be re-elected many times. Real executive power would belong to the prime minister as head of government and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Marcos set a plebiscite on November 30, 1973 to ratify or reject the new constitution, but later postponed it. Pinagpaliban niya ito dahil natakot siyang baka bumoto ang mga tao ng no or hindi. Instead, citizen assemblies were held on January 10 to 15, 1973, where people voted by hand on the Constitution, martial law, and the interim National Assembly and election. On January 17, 1973, Marcos announced that the Constitution was ratified, claiming it passed by an overwhelming vote the members of the highly irregular citizen assemblies. During Marcos' rule, the Constitution was amended several times. In 1976, citizen assemblies approved the continuation of martial law, created the interim Batasang Pambansa, made the president also the prime minister, and gave Marcos both executive and legislative power, including authority to amend constitution. In 1980, the retirement age of judges was raised to 70. The system became semi-presidential, giving executive power back to a directly elected president and creating an executive committee with the prime minister and 14 others as cabinet. In 1984, the committee was abolished and the vice presidency restored. The 1973 Constitution became a tool for Marcos to keep executive powers, abolish the Senate, and establish an authoritarian presidential system with all power concentrated in his hands. Pagkatapos ng lahat ng pagbabago, ang 1973 Constitution ay naging paraan lamang para mapanatili ang Pangulo sa kanyang executive power. Maaalis ang Senado at hindi talaga gumana bilang parliamentary system. Sa halip, ito ay naging isang authoritarian presidential system kung saan lahat ng tunay na kapangyarihan ay nakasentro sa Pangulo at suportado pa ng isang konstitusyon. In the 1980s, Marcos gained more power while public discontent grew. In August 1983, opposition leader Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr. was assassinated under military custody, which united the non-violent opposition against Marcos. In 1986, Marcos held snap election marked by massive fraud and declared himself as winner, leading to the EDSA People Power Revolution. Under U.S. pressure, Marcos fled into exile and Corazon Aquino, Ninoy's widow, became president on February 25, 1986. Noong 1980s, naging magulo ang sitwasyon sa Pilipinas. Habang lumalakas si Marcos, lumalakas din ang mga galit ng tao sa kanya. Noong Agosto 1983, si Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr., leader ng oposisyon at tinaguri ang pinakamalakas na kalaban ni Marcos, ay pinaslang habang nasa kustodiya ng militar. Maraming naniniwala na ang utos ng pagpatay kay Aquino ay galing sa mataas na opisyal o gobyerno. Dahil dito, nagkaisa ang non-violent opposition laban sa diktatorya ni Marcos. Napilitan si Marcos na magdaos ng snap election 1 taon ng maaga. Ngunit nagkaroon ng malawakang pandaraya sa eleksyon. Idineklara ni Marcos ang sarili niya ng pagkapanalo. Habang maraming protesta sa bansa at pandaigdigang pangtutol sa kanya. Ngunit, dahil dito, nagkaroon ng EDSA People Power Revolution noong 1986 kung saan libo-libong tao mula sa iba't ibang sektor ang lumalabas sa kalsada. Sa ilalim ng pressure mula sa Estados Unidos, na dati ring sumusuporta kay Marcos at sa kanyang martial law, napilitang umalis at pinatapon sa ibang bansa ang pamilya ni Marcos. Ang kalaban niya sa snap election, si Corazon Aquino, asawa ni Ninoy Aquino, ay naitalang bilang Pangulo noong Pebrero 25, 1986.
Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. Good day ma'am. My name is Yasser P. Tabuan. For today, I'll be sharing with you about the 1987 Philippine Constitution. Basically, this is the constitution that was made right after martial law ended. It's super important kasi it restored democracy in our country and made sure na hindi na mauulit yung abuses of power during the dictatorship. Kaya let's go over how it started, its main features, and why it matters up to now. So, quick background muna. After ng martial law at matapos mapatalsik si Marcos, si President Corazon Aquino ay may tatlong options. Una, pwede niyang ibalik yung 1935 Constitution. Pangalawa, pwede rin yung 1973 Constitution na ginawa noong time ni Marcos, pero with some reforms. At yung pangatlo, gumawa na lang ng panibagong constitution. So, pinili niya yung last option kasi gusto niya ng isang bagong constitution na talagang magre-reflect ng ideals at aspirations ng mga Pilipino. So, habang wala pa yung permanent constitution, nagkaroon muna ng Freedom Constitution noong 1986 bilang temporary guide. Tapos, bumuo si Cory Aquino ng isang constitutional commission na may 48 members mula sa iba't ibang sectors para sila yung gagawa ng draft ng bagong charter. So, finally, noong February 2, 1987, na-ratify at naging official na yung constitution natin hanggang ngayon. Ngayon, ano nga ba yung general features nito? Una, meron siyang preamble at 18 articles. Ang declaration dito, Philippines is a democratic and republican state. At ang sovereignty or power nasa tao. Hindi sa isang tao lang, kundi sa lahat ng mamamayan. At para maiwasan ng abuso, hinati ang government powers into 3 branches. Executive, legislative, and judiciary na lahat ay may checks and balances. So, let's start with the executive branch. So, ito yung pinamumunuan ng president kasama ang kanyang cabinet. Ang president ang head of state at chief executive. Pero unlike noong martial law days, limitado ng power niya. 6 years lang ang term ng president at wala ng re-election. Same din sa vice president. So, 6 years lang din. So, importante din po na tandaan na pwede pa rin magdeklara ng martial law ang president. Pero may malinaw na limitations. Maximum of 60 days lang. At pwedeng i-revoke or di kaya i-extend ng Congress. Plus, may power din ng Supreme Court to review kung valid ba talaga ang declaration. So, ibig sabihin, hindi na pwedeng abusuhin gaya ng nangyari dati kay Marcos. Next, the legislative branch o Congress. Bicameral siya, meaning dalawang houses, the Senate at the House of Representatives. Sa Senate, May 24 senators elected nationwide, 6 years ang term at maximum 2 consecutive terms. Sa House of Representative naman, mga district representative sila, 234 districts, 3 years ang term, plus may up to 20% seats para sa party list system na ginawa para mabigyan ng boses ang marginalized sectors. Main job ng Congress ay gumawa ng laws at pwede rin silang magdeklara ng war, pero kailangan ng 2 to 3 vote. So may check din sila from the president kasi pwedeng i-vote ng president ang isang bill, pero may check din kay president kasi Congress can override a vote kung 2 to 3 ang boto ng both houses. Ngayon, punta tayo sa judiciary. Ito naman yung branch na may power to interpret the laws. Pinamumunuan ito ng Supreme Court na may 15 justices. Ang justices ay na-appoint ng president, pero dapat manggagaling sila sa shortlist ng Judicial and Bar Council. Ang trabaho ng judiciary ay i-check kung constitutional ba yung mga batas at actions ng gobyerno, mag-hear ng appeals sa big cases, at i-oversee ang mga lower courts. So, bukod sa tatlong branches na yan, meron ding Independent Constitutional Commissions, CSC or Civil Service Commission para sa mga government employees, COMELEC or Commission on Elections para sa election process, at COA or Commission on Audit para siguraduhin na tama ang paggamit ng pondo ng gobyerno. Meron din po tayong Office of the Ombudsman. So, ito po yung independent office na nag-iimbestiga ng corruption, abuse of power, at misconduct ng mga public officials. So, kapag may kaso, pwede silang mag-file sa Sandigan Bayan, which is a special anti-graft court. So, next, the amendments and revisions under Article 18. May tatlong paraan kung paano baguhin ang konstitusyon. Number 1, Constituent Assembly or CONAS, kung saan Congress mismo ang magpo-propose ng amendments. Number 2, Constitutional Convention or CONCON, kung saan mga elected or appointed delegates ang gagawa ng mga proposals. Number 3, People's Initiative or di kaya PI, kung saan mismong mga tao ang magpe-petition at least 12% ng voters nationwide with 3% per district. Pero kahit ilan dito, dapat i-ratify pa rin sa national referendum bago maging official. At last, ang impeachment. Dito pumapasok yung checks and balances sa high officials. Ang House of Representatives ang nag-i-initiate ng impeachment cases at ang Senate ang nagsisilbing impeachment court. Pwede lang ma-impeach ang presidente, Supreme Court justices, the ombudsman at iba pang high officials. So in summary, the 1987 Constitution restored democracy after the dictatorship. Nilimitahan nito ang president powers, especially sa martial law. Nag-i-establish ng checks and balances, nagbibigay ng paraan para labanan ng corruption at siguraduhin na accountable ang government sa people. Kaya hanggang ngayon, malaking role pa rin ng 1987 Constitution sa democracy natin. So that's all po. Thank you.
Our last topic is attempt to change or amend the 1987 Constitution. So the 1987 Constitution have 3 ways to change or amend it. The first one is Constituent Assembly. Ito yung kapag ang mga congressman and senator mismo ang magpropose ng amendments. The second is the Constitutional Convention. Kapag magkakaroon ng elected delegates na specially tasked na gumawa ng amendments. Lastly is the People's Initiative. Ito naman ang galing mismo sa mga tao, kumbaga signature campaign para mapropose ang pagbabago. So, however, kahit may mga paraan na ito, lahat ng amendments ay kailangan pa rin i-ratify or aprubahan ng taong bayan. May mga naging attempts na baguhin ang 1987 Constitution. Una, noong 1995 sa panahon ni President Fidel Ramos na si Jose Almonte, sekretarya ng National Security Council noon. Gumawa siya ng draft ng Constitution pero nalik ito ng media kaya hindi natuloy. Second is the group of pirma noong 1997. Ang goal nila ay makalakap ng maraming pirma para magkaroon ng People's Initiative na magbabago ng Constitution. Pero maraming kumontra nito, kasama na si Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago. Dinala niya ang issue sa Supreme Court at ayon sa Korte Suprema, hindi pwedeng magkaroon ng People's Initiative kung walang enabling law o batas na naglalatag kung paano ito gagawin, kaya hindi rin natuloy. So, after President Ramos, the next administration, which is President Joseph Estrada, also wants to explore the idea of charter change. So, he created a study commission to examine possible amendments or to change the constitution. So, specifically, nagpo-focus siya sa mga economic provisions and the judiciary. So, pero ang kanyang effort ay naging useless dahil hindi rin ito naging successful dahil sa marami ang kumukontra nito. So, during the Second People Power Revolution, so President Estrada was removed from his presidency. So, his Vice President, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, replaced him as the president. So, during her term, the House Speaker, Jose de Venecia, pushed through constitutional change through a constituent assembly. So, this method required a 2/3 vote in a House of Representatives in order to propose, amend, or revision the Constitution. So, hindi rin naging successful ang initiative nila dahil sa kumakalat na scandals and controversies which caused many people to distrust her intentions. So, marami rin ang natakot na baka ginagamit niya lang ito para ma-extend ang term niya bilang presidente na hindi rin naman pinayagan ng Constitution. So, during the time of President Benigno Noynoy Aquino III, hindi siya nagpakita ng interes para palitan ang Constitution. Sinasabi niya na hindi ito isa sa mga priority niya. However, some of the member of the Congress, especially House Speaker Feliciano Belmonte Jr., he still pushes for amendments, especially on the economic provision of the Constitution. Their goal was to promote liberalization, meaning to make the Philippines more open to foreign investors and businesses. But in the end, hindi rin ito naging successful dahil the lack of support and hindi rin siya prioritized ng administration. So, under the Aquino, there were attempts but no real progress was made. So, now let's talk about federalism. So, first, federalism was supported by Rodrigo Roa Duterte in his election during 2016. So, federalism is a system of government kung saan yung powers ay hinati between central governments at different regional governments. Ibig sabihin, hindi lahat ng decision at resources manggagaling sa national governments, kundi bawat regions may sariling kapangyarihan at autonomy. So, sa context ng Philippines, kung magiging federal tayo, ang bansa ay hahatiin sa autonomous regions. And some regions na ito ay magiging divided pa into local government units. So, each regions under federalism will have their own responsibilities. For example, sila ang magiging in charge sa industry development, public safety and instructions, education, healthcare, transportations, at marami pang iba. Bukod pa dito, sila rin mismo ang hahawak ng finances nila, development plans, at mga batas na exclusive sa kanila. Ngayon, ano naman ang role ng government? Sa federalism system, ang national government will only handle the matters of national interest tulad ng foreign policy, defense, at iba pang nationwide concerns. So, pero may mga powers na pwedeng shared between national governments and regional governments, but depende ito sa mga usapan. So, now let's talk about the pros and cons of federalism. So, may mga benefits din ang federalism. Some of it are regions can create custom solutions for their unique problems since iba-iba ang culture, geography at economy ng bawat lugar. Regions will have more control over their finances. Ibig sabihin, pwede silang mag-fund ng sariling project without waiting for approval from national government. It allows specialization. The national government focuses on big nationwide issues, habang regional naman will take care of local concerns. It could also solve problem like conflict in Mindanao, dahil pwede magkaroon sila ng sariling Bangsamoro region. It also could help address wealth inequality kasi hindi na lang sa Metro Manila ang focus ng resources and development. So now let's talk about the federalism, the cons of federalism. Syempre, meron din itong mga downside. So first is baka mahirapan ang bansa sa unity since bawat region magiging independent. Some region might not be ready for govern independence, lalo na kung kulang ang sa resources. So, instead of progress, baka lalong malubog sa kahirapan. Third is pwedeng magkaroon ng overlaps in jurisdiction. Magdudulot ito ng confusion kung alin ang sakop ng national at alin ang sakop ng region. So, as for Mindanao, may arm na dati. So, pero the conflict still continued. So, baka federalism alone is not enough. Lastly, malaking cost ang kailangan. Billions ang gagastusin para baguhin ang buong sistema at matagal bago maging stable at maayos ito. Lastly, noong taong 2016 presidential election, nanalo si President Rodrigo Roa Duterte dahil sa kanyang populist campaign na nakatuon sa law and order. Isa sa mga promises niya noon na ay bawasan ang krimen sa paraan ng pagpatay ng libo-libong kriminal. Bukod dito, si Duterte ay matagal ng advocate ng federalism. Federalism, ito ay isang sistema na kung saan ang gobyerno ay may central o federal government at may regional government din na may sariling kapangyarihan. Malaki ang influence nito sa kanya dahil galing siya sa Mindanao, isang lugar na matagal ng issue sa poverty at violence. Kaya noong December 7, 2016, pinirmahan niya ang isang executive order para gumawa ng consultative committee na re-reviewin ang 1987 Constitution bilang preparation kung sakali mang baguhin ito para maging federal system. That is all for our report, and thank you for listening and have a good day.